So the first one in the series is Women in AI. Women in AI is a non-for-profit organization, and it's about women and minorities. It's about representing those that we hear less of. So the goal really is to inspire and influence data leaders and get more people to become a little bit more curious, find mentors, find their tribe, and expand their understanding of what data is and how it impacts people's lives. So when I landed on the Women in AI website for the first time, I realized I had a sense that we were really aligned. And then I met Debbie Botha, Chief Partnership Officer at Women in AI. That's when it clicked. I was like, we need to do something together here because our missions align so much and diversity speaks to my heart. And so here we are with Debbie Botha. Debbie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Laurie. I'm very happy to be here.
Do you want to kick it off? Like how did you hear about Discovering Data in the first place?
I've been very busy on LinkedIn as an observer, let's call it that, in 2021. I discovered your podcasts in the beginning of the year, and I kept on going back to your podcasts. I loved, listening to, even if it's an hour, I was so willing to put aside an hour to listen to your podcast because it's always interesting. It's really getting the information from so far and so innovative the way that you describe things. I really enjoyed the human side of your podcasts, and you really had very interesting people on your show. So I thought, it would be brilliant for us to come together and bring that interesting conversations to the table with Women in AI.
Well, yeah, I don't know if you can see, but my heart is smiling at the moment. And the best thing that a podcast host can hear, the best feedback is from someone that really enjoys the content, because it's sometimes it feels like you put ideas out there in a vacuum. And so thank you for that. Really appreciate that feedback.
And also it is clear the amount of work that you put into the podcasts. I mean, the content is so dense and the ideas are so vast. It's really a pleasure to listen to it.
I'm so glad that it transpires, through miles and miles of physical distance. Let's let me deflate my ego a little bit now, and I want to talk about Women in AI a bit more deeply. What is the vision of Women in AI? What's the mission? What are you guys trying to do?
Yeah, so Women in AI, as you said, is a non-profit organization with we operate in about 140 countries. We have many volunteers working for us. There's ambassadors in the countries. I mean, the number of volunteers I think is about 180 by now. With ambassadors in the countries with their leadership teams, and then we have these chiefs identified and appointed late last year to really help the organization scale in a much more mature way. Because we started in 2017 and we grew massively in a very short time. We now 10,000 members with a very engaging Slack channel, newsletters, blogs, the web, and so on, and then 27,000 LinkedIn followers. So we're scaling, we're growing, and we want to scale in a much more mature way through partnerships. What we aim to do is to increase the numbers, the presence, and the eminence of women in AI from where they are educated in school, right through to getting their first job, right through to helping them grow in their careers and pave the way for it, for these women, through various partnerships in academia, government, startups, and so on. So we launch these programs for innovation, for awards, education, talks. We love doing panels, and so that's in a nutshell what we do.
So mentorship is in a way, a big chunk of what you do. So it's not just about diversity; it's also about mentoring those people that are, in a way, left out from the conversation. I see side effects of limited sample size or skewed sample size in data science. I do have memories of models that underperformed because the data sets we put in were not representative of the population of the real world, and this is a very known problem in data science. A court of law using a software as an aid to decide whether to release someone or not, and a doctor in a medical environment using computer vision and computer recognition to maybe detect early stages of a disease. Those applications are serious. It's a matter of life and death, or it's a matter of massively changing the quality of life of someone in the case of the court of law. And those are examples that require the right ingredients at the input of the model. And the right ingredients means obviously the right data. How do you get the right data? It's a matter of training people to recognize biases. Some people might say, well, what does gender have to do with diversity of a data set? One could spend, 10 hours on this topic, but it's the topic of metacognition, the topic of cognitive biases. We all see the world through the lens that we developed over the years as we grow up. And different people from different backgrounds, not just gender, see the world in a different way. And that lens creates a bias in our data sets. And so it's important to have diversity from just a purely algorithmic standpoint. But it's also important to have diversity because in the real world, we don't have clones of ourselves. We interact with so many different people. And so the more we are exposed to different type of personalities and ways of thinking, the better equipped we are to actually solve problems in the real world.
Yeah. And if I can go back to your point on bias in the data sets and why diversity and inclusion is so important. The fact is that you actually have to include women and minority groups in the start of an initiative, not in the data itself or as an afterthought, but really around the table. Bring those people at the table to help making decisions on what you are going to do, what type of algorithm you need. Your strategy must be designed by a diverse group of people. That's where you'll get the major results.